Okay, thank you, Chairman. We're now live streaming. The meeting's over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Breckland's virtual planning committee meeting for today. This meeting will be live streamed on the council's social media channels and will be recorded. Once you join the meeting, please remain on mute, which avoids any unnecessary background noise disturbing the meeting. Controls to mute and unmute are displayed on your screen. At the end of this brief presentation, Julie Britton, Democratic Services Officer, will take the roll call to confirm attendance. Could you please ensure that you unmute your microphone before speaking to confirm attendance, and then mute your microphone, as no response will assume that a planning committee member is not in the meeting. Each application has an allotted time slot. There may be an occasion when the time runs over, and therefore attendees will remain in the waiting room until such time their application is ready to be heard. If for any reason the discussion finishes earlier than the time slot given, the meeting will be paused. I will work through the agenda, inviting the ward member, applicant, etc. to introduce and speak on each item as appropriate. Attendees for each application will be held in the waiting room until such time that application is heard. Ward members in attendance who have registered to speak on an application will be asked to speak last. A speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes, or in the case of more than one objector or supporter wishing to speak, up to a maximum of 3 minutes in total will need to be shared. Where an applicant and their agent intend to speak, the 3 minutes is split between the two, other than when speaking. Speakers will remain on mute. If you try to speak when not invited to, you may be required to leave the meeting. I will then check with the Democratic Services Officer in attendance if there are any members who wish to ask a question. Please do this clearly by raising your hand, and please remain on mute until invited to speak. I will seek declarations of interest in the usual manner. Members with a declaration should indicate this by raising their hand. The Democratic Services Officer in attendance will invite the councillor to unmute and declare their interest to the chairman. This councillor will, at the relevant time, be removed from the meeting and placed in the virtual waiting room until discussion and voting on that item has completed, after which they will return to the meeting. Once the application has been discussed and all questions answered, I will ask for a proposer and a seconder. This again should be done by raising your hand. The Democratic Service Officer will then invite each councillor to speak in turn. If any member should experience IT issues during the presentation and does not ask for it to be repeated, they will be unable to vote on the application. For each item, all members will need to confirm that they have heard the application in full before the vote is taken. A roll call will be given for each member to cast their vote, either for, against, or abstain. Please can I remind members that they will need to unmute themselves when responding. I will now introduce my team for today. I've got Mike Horn, who is the solicitor to the council. We've got Rebecca Collins, who's head of development management. Becky Harris, who's our technical support officer for today. Chris Hobson is a principal planning officer, and Tom Donnelly as well, who's the DM planner. And we also have Simon Wood is with us. Oh yes, there's Simon. Simon Wood here as well, who is the Director of Planning and Building Control. And I have my two committee services members here, who are Teresa Smith and Julie Britton, who will be running the meeting because they're really good at that, and also taking the minutes. I will, okay, I'm going to be asked for the vote. So I'm going to ask Julie now if she will just take the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Wilkin.
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Here, Julie.
Councillor Atterwill.
Here.
Councillor Bowes.
Here.
Councillor Brain. Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
Present.
Councillor Harry Clark.
Here.
Councillor Helen Crane.
Present.
Councillor Vera Dale.
Present.
Councillor Philip Dygan.
Present.
Councillor Keith Gilbert.
Here.
Councillor Keith Martin.
Here.
And Councillor Robert Kybird.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can I just say, Councillor Kybird, thanks very much for stepping in. I'm not sure if it was last minute, but stepping in for Councillor Brahim. Thank you.
It wasn't quite last minute. It was following a discussion about his father's health. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, thanks. It was last
hospital.
minute for me. I didn't know till this morning.
His
Thanks
father's
anyway.
coming in hospital today.
Also, could I just say as well, so I apologise to Tom Donnelly. I just put you down as a DM planner because what my screen said, but you're actually a senior planner. Hence the reason that when I look on my screen, you look as if you've got a big silver hat on, but I think it's a cooker hood. But it looks like a very important hat that you're wearing. Okay, so we're going to move on to our agenda for today. So we're going to start with item 1 is the minutes. I'm going to take them as agreed unless anyone signals to say that they have a problem with me signing off the minutes. No. Okay, thank you. So those minutes are agreed. Number 2, apologies and substitutes. Obviously, we have just covered that. Thank you. Number 3, declarations and representations received. I will take them as each item is raised. Number 4, chairman's announcements. None to add apart from the fact that we are still here on screen and it's going to be a while before we get back into the committee suites. Item 5, requests to defer applications. Rebecca, do we have any at all?
Yes, please, Chairman. We're requesting to defer item 8A in Banham and Mill Road, reference 3PL 2019-1444/0. We are awaiting some further highways information.
Okay, thank you. Let's agree that to defer. Item 6, urgent business. Do we have any items that have been raised for urgent business? You don't, but Councillor Clark, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Partly rises from the recent last full council meeting. Like other members, I've seen the responses in relation to the planning conditions query. Just wondered when you were first aware that planning conditions weren't monitored, although they obviously looked at discharge, according to information that we had at last full council. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Wood, Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's never been the practice, as far as I'm aware, for us to monitor planning conditions. It's always been on a reactive rather than a proactive basis. So it's something we've been aware of. It doesn't mean we don't look into conditions when we get allegations that conditions have been breached, but it's not something we've been doing as a routine for some time, as far as I'm aware.
Thank you. Okay. Item 7, we've got local plan update. Back to you, please, Simon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I will keep this as brief as possible. There's no local plan update as such, but to update members on the 2 consultation papers that are currently out. We held a briefing for all members on the 15th of September on both the papers. It was quite well attended, and thank you to those that did attend and did make comments afterwards, and those will help to inform the responses that are made. The changes to the current planning system paper, the deadline is the 1st of October, which is this Thursday. Members will be aware that we did a briefing note for the parish and town councils and circulated that to them and members last week. The second paper, Planning for the Future, which is the white paper that will have to be dealt with by further legislation if it's going to come into force. The deadline for that is the 29th of October, and we will shortly be issuing a similar briefing paper to that we did for the other consultation paper. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from members on this item? No. Okay. Thanks for that report. The only thing I was partially going to raise, which I hope I don't stir up the hornet's nest now, was within that presentation that you was put forward, the percentage development for Norfolk was an increase of 43%, but that was for Norfolk and not for Breckland, I gather.
Yes, Chairman. When it's aggregated out, the overall percentage increase for Norfolk would be at 43%. However, that looks at authorities such as Norwich, Yarmouth, Kings Lynn and West Norfolk taking extremely low additional growth. And in one instance, I can't remember which one it is, actually having their numbers reduced, and Broadland, North Norfolk, Breckland and South Norfolk having more significant rises. Breckland's is in the region of about 75, 76%.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Okay. Sorry, guys, just shuffling papers here. Our next item would have been item 8, deferred applications, which has been taken off for today. So we're going to move to our main agenda, and we're going to start with on item 9A, which is Attleborough, 3PL 2019 0097/D. Rebecca's presenting this one, but we have no one coming in for that one, so we can proceed straight away, please, Rebecca.
Apologies, Chairman. So we're looking at a reserve matters application for the former Grampian food site, which is off just Buckingham Road in Attleborough, just to the south of the railway station. The application is for a reserve matters application, obviously having granted outline consent with the Section 106 agreement for 165 dwellings on this site. Here you can see the aerial photograph of the site, here outlined in red on the screen for you. So you can see Buckingham Road is the road to the west of the application site. To the north is White House Lane. And within the application site to the northwestern corner, you can see the existing old Grampian Foods factory, which has currently been empty for some time. You can see the land and associated buildings with that factory. And then to the east and south of the application site, you can see the field, which forms part of the application site for the 165 dwellings. So here is the application site again marked in red for you. This actually lies within the settlement boundary of Attleborough under the current local plan. When granted outline planning permission, it was outside the settlement boundary. It's now inside the settlement boundary. And in purple on the screen in front of you is the approved sustainable urban extension, which, as you can see, wraps around the development on its east and southern sides. But the site is in the settlement boundary of Attleborough. Also of note, and obviously outlined in the officer report, is the adoption of the Attleborough neighbourhood plan since the outline consent granted. So here is the site layout on the screen in front of you. As you can see and specified in the outline report, it is a fairly dense layout of 165 dwellings. You'll note from the supplementary report accompanying the officer report that the housing mix has been updated. And the application site comprises of a variance of housing from 1-bedroom flats to 4-bedroom houses of semi-detached, detached and terraced nature. You can see that the open space is largely comprised to the centre and to the north of the application site. And you'll note from the officer report that the majority of development is 2-storey to the extremities of the site, with a very modest amount of 3-storey development fronting the open space to the centre of the site. Members will also note that we've spent a fair bit of time with the applicants negotiating the proposals. That's in terms of layout and design, as well as the highways constraints of the site. However, you will note from the officer report that the Highways Authority are now satisfied with the application and consider it can proceed in terms of highway safety both within the site and onto Buckingham Road. You'll note from the plan in front of you that the main access point is onto Buckingham Road only. That's again to the west of the application site. You'll note from the officer's report that we spent some time discussing and negotiating the frontage onto Buckingham Road and the area to the south of the application site, where the proposed development would meet an adjoining development. And I've got some photos of that to show you in a minute. So here we have some street scenes of the development. The middle image you can see there in front of you on the screen. That is the development onto Buckingham Road. Like I say, we spent some time with the applicants discussing these frontages and agreeing key frontages. I've got some photos to show you in a minute, but as you'll see, like quite a lot of development along Buckingham Road is set back from the main highway, although it may front onto it, and it's set behind significant landscaping of different types. So what we wanted to achieve was this green character across the frontage of the site, albeit a fairly small frontage in the wider context of the area. And also in a minute, when I show you some pictures of the application site, there is quite a large Leylandi hedge along the frontage of the site, which gives it a green feel. Admittedly, it's got somewhat out of control recently, and it will be lost through this development. But hopefully members can see that we've spent some time with the applicants discussing the frontage onto Buckingham Road and ensuring that that fits with the wider character of the area. And also you've got some further street scenes. The bottom one is showing the frontage onto the open space at the centre of the site with the 2.5-storey dwellings in that location. So there are 3 units of flats across the application site. This is the one that's fronting onto Buckingham Road. Obviously, we've broken up the scale of the frontage by having these projecting gables onto the frontage and a front door onto that location. The flats are quite important to the housing mix across the site. And like I say, there's an updated housing mix on your supplementary. And that's because we've gone through several iterations of the plan, redesigning it to make it work for the highways constraints and for the wider character of the area. This is a second block of flats, which is more in the centre of the site, largely hidden from the main routeways, especially Buckingham Road. I've also got some other images of the dwellings across the site. So here are some of the 2.5-storey dwellings that are focused within the centre of the site. This speckled approach would be a rendered approach. They're also proposing cladding and brick across the site to give a consistent material and aspect. And some of the more modest terraced house and semi-detached houses. These are examples of clads which can be found across the site. The density of the site is around about 30 dwellings per hectare, which is considered an appropriate density, both in its reasonable to town centre location and for this application site, and also to meet the mix of the wider needs of the area. So here is, this is actually White House Lane, looking back towards the application site and some of the vacant buildings that stand within the application site at the moment. Obviously, it is need of some TLC. The buildings have been vacant for a long time, and it would be good to get some positive development in that location. Members may recall from the site layout plan that we've showed you previously, there will be landscaping and open space to this northern section of the site onto White House Lane, and no vehicular access to avoid any highway safety issues. So there should be a nice green frontage along White House Lane, which is particularly in character with White House Lane, which is very, very narrow, but very, very green, which you can just see on the right-hand side of your screen here. And this is just some images of the typical property right at the entrance of White House Lane. They do get a bit larger and further set back as you carry on down White House Lane. However, the proportions of these, particularly terrace properties and window size, have been transferred into the designs of the application site. And oh, sorry, there is a photo now to show you typically the amount of vegetation and trees along White House Lane, which the proposal will mimic. And this has been agreed with our tree officer on the request of additional information already. This is Buckingham Road. So in the distance there, you can see the Toyota garage, which abuts the application site as you head away from Attleborough. You can see the large Leylandi hedge to the frontage of the site, which will be removed. But like I say, we are looking for a decent scheme, landscaping scheme to replace that. And you can see on the opposite side of the road, the type of trees and landscaping, which would be appropriate along Buckingham Road, that we tried to replicate on this side. And again, I'm not sure how good of a quality this is, members, so I apologise, but again, you can see that a lot of the properties along Buckingham Road at the minute are set behind either greenery or hedges above close bordered fencing. So that's really what we're looking to replicate at the frontage of this site to help it blend with the character of the area. Just got some photos panning across the application site. You can see the old disused buildings in the distance there. And you can see that that backfield is just a green open field behind the existing buildings, which will obviously be replaced by housing. Again, we're looking for quite a dense hedgerow along this southern part of the site to fit in with the wider character of the lane, which you can just see in front of you now. Just a final point, members, this development has gone on into the southwestern side of the application site. This is already developed. The new development will sit behind this and it will be set back, so it won't be viewed in direct comparison to the site. One of the concerns that we raised as officers during the application process was that the scale of development wasn't comparable to this and they could look quite at odds with each other. So the developers placed some terrace properties behind here, but they will be set behind a hedgerow. So that it fits better in terms of scale with the buildings that are directly adjacent to it, and we're satisfied with this approach. And here is just a long distance view of the site. So like I say, this is a reserved matters application. We've already agreed the principle at outline stage and the section 106 agreement. The supplementary report covers off the revised housing mix. Apologies, that is wrong in the officer report, it's in the supplementary report, which will in turn affect the contributions in the section 106 agreement. However, this is all required by the section 106 agreement based on bedroom sizes. So members don't need to be concerned with outdated section 106 contributions. We've discussed this application at length with the applicants and spent a long time getting to a point where we think we've got an application that we can approve both in character terms. There's no objections from the statutory consultees and we are recommending this one for approval. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. We've got no speakers, so it's open to questions from members. Councillor Gilbert, please, and then Councillor Crane.
Thank you, Chairman. I say there's only one access to the site. Is there a second emergency access?
So they can. Hold on a second. So yes, there is, but it's going to be bollarded on the request of the Highways Authority right to the north of the application site.
That's
so
good.
it is emergencies only because of the visibility along White House Lane.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Councillor Crane, then Councillor Martin, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I did have one or two questions here. One was regarding the bat survey that was done, and has that been, it said that it had been done a long time ago, so has that been redone? The other one was that I was pleased to see that the condition 12 of the original outline planning permission remains and that bat and bird boxes will be required. It states 6 bat boxes and the provision of bird boxes, which could mean only 2. The applicant isn't here, so I can't ask them to state how many. And we were going to condition, I thought, swift boxes on all new builds, but is this too late for this application now? That's one question. Okay. The other was on design and appearance, which is always very difficult to see in just black and white photos or architectural drawings, but I heard you say about cladding and rendering. I have got 2 more questions, whether you want me to stop and come back, Chairman, or do you want me to carry on?
Carry on.
Yeah, just carry on.
The other one was about housing type. In the officer's report of the 11th of the 8th, 20, there were concerns regarding the 766 square foot house type. And the officer states this is some margin below the required 850 square foot. Is this still the case? And the update from the tree officer regarding the trees on site, I was very pleased to see, if I got my sums right, that they were going to be 771 new trees being planted on this site. But I haven't seen an update to the officer's report, but that might be my mistake. So, and that's the final of my questions.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
So with regards to ecology and bats, there's already a condition on the outline consent for new surveys. So it wasn't appropriate for it, there wasn't required for them to undertake new surveys for the reserve matters, although potentially that's the way we would tend to word our condition more recently. But given that it's a condition of the outline, there's no need to repeat it. And that's set out in paragraph 1.7 of the report. The materials they are proposing a mix of materials. Obviously, we're looking for quite a traditional red brick to be mixed with other materials as appropriate across the site. And there is a materials condition on the outline consent as well. Although the applicants have given indication of properties that they wish to render or clad, but we can check the actual details of those materials through the outline condition. Okay. In terms of the actual design and layout, we've spent a lot of time, like a significant, you'll notice it dates from 2019. I've spent a significant amount of time discussing the layout with them. And what we've sought to do is ensure that the green entrances to the site are protected along the northern southern boundary with limited accesses, vehicular accesses out onto those roads. And spent a lot of time with the tree officer agreeing a vegetation strategy for sorry, I keep calling it Old Buckingham Road, and it's not, it's just called Buckingham Road onto there. Some of the house types are quite conventional, but they do fit with the mix and size that's proposed in our view. So in this instance, we think on the grounds of delivering 165 dwellings to an appropriate mix, we consider the layout to be acceptable. Obviously, members, you will need to make your own minds up in that regard. Trees, the tree officer did request some additional information in the form of an AIA, and that was received before we brought it to you at members committee, and the tree officer has further reviewed that and he's satisfied. In terms of the actual numbers of trees, I would have to go through the AIA. So Councillor Crane, I'm happy to take your proposal for 70 in that regard, but we are looking at
770.
Yeah, sorry, we are looking for quite a green site, like I say, along those northern southern, and it won't be as tree green along Buckingham Road because obviously we have to watch out for parked cars and suitability with tree roots near to houses. But we are looking for a green dense hedgerow along that frontage with appropriate landscaping. The matters of trees and landscaping are conditioned as part of this application. So it will give us a second. So there's the proposals that are considered, but it gives us the opportunity to check and approve those. And the other question about the report on the 11th of 8th, I'm really sorry, but I'm not sure I understand that to answer it. Do you mind running it past me again?
Well, what I read, and I read it a couple of times, it says the housing officer's report on the 11th of the 8th, 20, he said, or she, the housing officer, says that there are concerns regarding 766 square foot house type. The officer states that this is some margin below the required 850 square foot. Is this still the case? I know you did mention house sizes and that, and I wondered if that had been resolved and you're happy. You are happy with the house sizes that have been.
We've had confirmation both from the housing officer that all the houses meet their standards in terms of affordable housing, and all the house types we've had, they've submitted the house types, internal floor place, and they meet the technically prescribed space standards, which is their requirement of policy. It slips my mind. I think it's how 11, but I don't want to misquote it, members. But
that's fine. Yeah.
Specialist housing condition, and we've checked that as officer. I've checked that as officer.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thanks very much. Thank you. I've got Councillor Martin, then Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rebecca has answered one or two of my points I was going to raise. This application was outlined way back in about 2015, because I think we had a public consultation with Bidwells, I remember. I know Rebecca has been doing the design and layout. perhaps she could just mention where she did have some concerns where the affordable housing or the social housing was going to be on site. I haven't picked that up. And the entrance to the main factory, which is there, is not being moved towards the corner, is it? It's going to be in the same position. Because I was looking at the road frontage. Thank you.
Hold on.
Rebecca?
I'm doing it for you. Hold on.
Thank you.
It's just a bit slow. So here's the entrance. This will be the main entrance, main vehicular entrance in and out the site. I think it's just to the south of where the main factory entrance is Councillor Martin. You'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just to the south of where the previous entrance was. But it's to get the forward visibility. So I don't know if members can see this faint line, but obviously it's to get the forward visibility for anyone pulling out of White House Lane. So there's sufficient braking distance. So that's been moved just slightly to the south. The housing officer has been consulted about the mix and layout of affordable housing, and it is in accordance with policy, so it's spread across the site. Haven't got a plan here. A lot of affordable housing is concentrated within the flats and in the southern area, but it is interspersed with market dwellings. There's obviously some more on this frontage. Haven't got a plan showing specifically the affordable housing, unless you wanted to see one.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question, Rebecca. In the main officer's report, I know the percentage of affordable housing was a fraction under 25%, you know, which is our local plan figure. It came out 24.84. I haven't double checked on the supplementary. Is it still roundabout on the mark there for the 25% in the application finally? Thank you.
Am I on speaker? The percentage of affordable housing was agreed at outline stage, and that hasn't changed from the main report, which tells us it's 25%.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. No one else wishing to ask questions of the officers? No, that's fine. So can I confirm that all members have heard the presentation in full before the vote is taken? Just show your hands that you've all heard. You can look along the screen. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, thank you. Julie, I'll ask you to do a roll call of the vote, please, because on this application, your officer's recommendation for Attleborough, 3PL 2019-0097, the recommendation from the officers is one of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Kybird.
For the recommendation.
Councillor Keith Martin. Sorry, Keith, you're on mute.
For the recommendation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Gilbert.
For.
Councillor Philip Dygan.
For.
Councillor Vera Dale.
For the recommendation.
Councillor Helen Crane.
For.
Councillor Harry Clark.
For.
Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
For.
Councillor Bowes.
For.
Councillor Roger Attewell.
For.
And Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That's unanimous. Sorry, Chairman, you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I'd pressed it and I didn't. We're now going to move on to Thetford Nunsbridge Road. We have the agent, Jason Parker, wishing to join our meeting. Okay, Jason Parker is with us now. So this is application 3PL 2020-0751, and Chris Hobson is the presenting officer for this one. It's over to you, please, Chris.
Thank you, Chairman. So I believe the presentation's before you. So item 9B now, so that's pages 28 to 40 of the main report. I'd also draw your attention to the supplementary report and those additional comments from the Historic Environment Services and the revised condition number 3 with respect to the written scheme of investigation. So this is part of a wider project. It's a part of critical infrastructure works within that to provide power to the Thetford Zoo. So members may recall the application heard at last committee for the substation in the Sue area. This is in relation to part of that proposal to provide electricity. So this is part of works to provide a cable route from the existing substation south of Barnham RAF camp on the Berry Road through Thetford and up to the new substation in the Sue site. In terms of the application before you, here we have the application site. So that's for a section of cable route 170 metres in length, with the additional areas there for site welfare and pipe welding. In terms of the site in more detail, so here we can see the area edge red, so that's the approximate location. We've got the town centre to the north, various mixed use town centre properties. We have residential properties within the immediate vicinity to the south and southwest, and then key routes. We've got the A1066 Perthway up here, shown by the my arrow here. We've got the A1066 coming due east, and the Berry Road A134 in this location. The Nuns Bridge obviously here. So this is the site in more context, in closer detail. We've got the Nuns Bridge here. So this gives an idea of some of the immediate environmental constraints. We've got, particularly we've got the River Thet and Little Ouse River. So part of the works are to drill a duct under the two rivers and avoiding the 3 Nuns Bridges. We've also got the Castle Hill scheduled engine monument due north and northeast. We've also got the Nuns Bridges open space scheduled engine monument, which is here. So that's due south of the site. Indeed, the reception pit is within the scheduled engine monument site. We've also got a number of listed properties, edge red, and you'll see the hatched area is the conservation area. Again, we can see more detail here, the residential properties, mixed use properties along Ford Street and Castle Lane. So in terms of immediate context, we've got Nuns Bridges Road, so that's due south towards the northern entry pit of the HDD works. So here we can see the northern Nuns Bridge and the proposed site for the entry pit, and that's the exit pit location, and that's looking north back towards the Nuns Bridges. You can see the River Little Ouse there next in the foreground, and that's due south from the site along Nuns Bridges Road. So we've got the Nuns Bridges open space in the foreground. That's the corresponding view back north, and that's the view east along Mill Lane, the Little Ouse River on the left, and there's the junction of Mill Lane and Nuns Bridges Road. The proposed works in more detail. So we've got the site here. So the works for which consent are sought is this route for the duct edge green. So this will involve 2 bores running parallel. We've got the entry pit here and the exit pit here. Now, in terms of the proposed works, there'll be works in and around the entry and exit pit, the drill route which arcs around the bridges and under the two rivers. Here we can see that in more detail. So there'll be 2 bores, each containing up to 5 ducts. And in terms of that profile in more detail, here we can see the 3 rivers and a section there showing the profile of the proposed bores. And just an example of some of the plant and equipment. So part of the proposals involve pipe welding for the duct, which will be pulled back through the bores. Then we've got an idea of the plant and equipment. So in terms of the proposals, issues and correspondence, the Thetford Town Council in support of the proposals, apologies, in papers, they do raise a couple of points in relation to timing of works, avoiding suggested undertaking in school holidays, and the feasibility of retaining pedestrian cycle routes and securing a detailed travel plan. I'll come on to that in more detail. There's been no other objections raised from the local community, and other consultees have raised no objections subject to conditions. So I would highlight in the report it does refer to Natural England having not responded. They have actually responded and raised no objections. So in terms of key issues, the proposals will involve closure of the Nuns Bridges Road from the Ford Street at the northern end to midway between Nunnery Place and Nunnery Drive here. Access will be maintained to the properties of Nunnery Drive and to the properties access and car parks here. In terms of comments from the Highways Authority, the proposals have been the result of correspondence, discussions, long-running discussions with the Highways Authority. Indeed, the proposals that are along this route are the preferred option for the Highways Authority, and discussions are ongoing about the detailed travel plan, the diversion routes, and the Highways Authority have raised no objections subject to conditions, including that set out in condition 4, and in addition to that, I propose is a clarification within that is a point regarding securing approval of the the route for diversions. So that's a proposed addition to condition 4. In terms of discussions and going forward, it's envisaged that the discussions with the applicant would involve the Highways Authority, the Thetford Town Council and other stakeholders. So subject to that condition, it's not considered any impacts would be severe. In terms of other aspects, as highlighted previously, there are a number of sensitive heritage constraints in the area, most notably the scheduled ancient monuments. However, the Historic Environment Services, as noted, have raised no objection subject to condition ensuring the approved written scheme of investigation is implemented. In terms of ecological matters, again, construction ecological management plan it has been submitted and is considered acceptable, and conditions have been included accordingly. In terms of other impacts, there are residential properties in vicinity. However, the works would be undertaken during daylight hours, and the construction traffic management plan includes further restrictions in terms of dust, noise and odour. In terms of other aspects, it's not considered there will be any significant impacts on the 2 rivers, the River Thet and the Little River Ouse. The Environment Agency have raised no objections to the proposals. So in conclusion, subject to those conditions as highlighted in the report and earlier in the presentation, proposals aren't considered to have any significant adverse impacts. Proposals provide an important infrastructure project that is key to ensuring that the Thetford Zoo and the housing and employment growth is delivered. And accordingly, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We've got Jason Parker, who is the agent. Once we go full screen, please. Can we go full screen? Here we go. Jason Parker, you have 3 minutes, please, sir. You're still on mute. I can't hear a word you're saying.
No, you're not on mute, Jason. You're just very quiet.
No, still can't hear you. You could try sign language. No, can't hear you at all. Okay.
Given the applications recommended for approval, does it make sense to just have any debate, and then if there's any questions, if Jason couldn't answer them through chat or something of that nature?
Yeah, we have actually had a statement submitted as well. So, oh no, Becky's shaking her head. No.
Sorry, that's what I asked, Chairman, whether Jason had submitted a statement, but he hasn't. So, yeah, I propose we move straight to the debate, and then if there's any queries, if Chris can't clear them up, then we'll liaise with Jason.
Okay, thanks. We'll suspend Jason Parker speaking then, because we can't hear a word he's saying. Can we go to questions from members? Do members have any questions on this item? Councillor Clark, and yeah, Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. A question to Rebecca and to Chris, or to Chris really. I support the application. I've just noted, I've looked through the conditions. I don't know if Chris can perhaps take us through how any of the concerns of the Town Council have been met at all. I know there's going to be a detailed, you know, travel plan, etc. Obviously, the key things there about minimising disruption for residents. If he's able to highlight anything there in the conditions, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. In terms of the Thetford Town Council, there's a few comments in terms of the suggestion to carry out the works in school holiday seasons. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of the ongoing discussions between the applicants and the Highways Authority, yeah, it's, you know, that's part of what the detailed travel plan will essentially involve. It will be the result of those discussions. Obviously, there's a number of factors to incorporate into the programme for the development. Now, they've previously outlined it's envisaged works would be carried out over a 10-week period from September. So, at present, it's likely that it would have come outside of those school holidays, but obviously discussions will continue as part of, you know, a wider consent and order that will be required as part of works within the highway, beyond the scope of this application. So that will be the subject of those discussions, and approval will, you know, it will be part of the submission for condition 4. In terms of the other comments with respect to pedestrian routes, now it's given the safety and feasibility implications of the pedestrian routes across the three bridges, that is going to prove unfeasible. In terms of the need to unpack, move the plant and equipment, it will require, obviously the site and projects having to incur a much severely longer period to having to kind of allow for that. Discussions could obviously take place as to minimising the impacts. So potentially, if routes east to west along Spring Walk could be retained or partially retained. Again, those can be the subject of discussions, and I'm sure they will be. And that's why the condition 4 is I've suggested be amended to include a route for the diversions, and that is for clarity for pedestrians and vehicular traffic. And the other point from the Town Council was in relation to a travel plan, which would a traffic plan, which would incorporate all those measures, really, as you say, with the objectives of minimising impacts, really. In terms of neighbours, one of the conditions, one of the points within condition 4 includes hours of works. Now, the proposed works from an ecology point of view would be required to be undertaken in daylight hours to avoid impacts on bats and protected species. So in terms of dust and dirt, there's a point in there to secure works and measures to prevent harm in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's quite an extensive reply to that question. Councillor Chapman-Allen, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Chris, having been on Thetford Town Council for a number of years and lived there for 24, I appreciate the Town Council's concerns very sincerely. But as far as using it, the works in the school holidays, I'm not quite sure why would that be so advantageous, as the majority of schools are in the town centre. There's only one which is on that side of town. And in order to get to it, pupils wouldn't be crossing over Three Nuns Bridges. And the academy, which is off the A134, right across the other side of town. I may be very wrong, but I wouldn't have thought that parents and pupils would have been using Three Nuns Bridges to get to the schools, Chairman. So it's just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, no more questions from members. Could I just clarify with Mr. Horn, please? Are you happy that we proceed, having not had the statement from the agent?
I would say that what you should do is probably, I'm wanting to say that what I hear is a likely approval, so I don't think that there is a problem. So one wants to do something that's, we can come back. I tell you what, the best thing to do is to say, Chairman, please go ahead. But if there is a refusal, that should be a deferred refusal pending any responses from Jason. Rebecca,
okay.
Maybe she's heard something.
Rebecca's not only waving her head, she's shaking her, waving her hand and shaking her head, and I'm not sure what else she's moving, but she's fidgeting on her chair as well. So Rebecca, it's over to you.
Sorry, Mike. I'm just going to butt in and remind yourself and the chairman what the protocol says. And the protocol says that if we experience technical difficulties, then we rely on the agent's or objector's statement, of which there hasn't been one submitted in this instance. So we do say in the protocol that we will proceed with the application, determine, the resolution of the application, if in the event there is technical issues. Apologies. So I think personally, Mike, unless you tell me I'm wrong, even if members decide to refuse the application, we'd still be in line with the protocol.
It would be in line with the protocol, but nevertheless, members may wish to, if it is refused, put in a safety valve that allows
Okay.
Mr. Parker to
I
come
just
back.
think it's very sad that we don't get to hear Jason Parker talking all afternoon. But anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to just ask again that all members have heard the application which has been presented before them and they are okay to take the vote. If you could just show me your thumbs, your hands, anything, just members happy to that they've heard. Yes, as I look through my screen. Yes, that's fine. Okay, Julie, could we please take the vote on this item, which is 3PL 2020-0751, which is at Thetford. Your officer's recommendation on this one, of course, is one of approval. Could I have a show of hands, or can you do the roll call, please, Julie?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Wilkinson?
For.
Councillor Atterwill?
For.
Councillor Bowes?
For.
Councillor Chapman-Allen?
For.
Councillor Clark?
For.
Councillor Crane?
For.
Councillor Dale?
For.
Councillor Digan?
For.
Councillor Gilbert?
For.
Councillor Kybird?
For.
And Councillor Martin?
For.
That's unanimous,
That's
Chairman.
unanimous. Thank you. Yes, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you, Jason. We'll look forward to hearing you another day. Okay. Oh, I could virtually hear you then. But anyway, that's enough. Get rid of him. Julie, throw him out. Okay, thank you. Our next item is item 9C, 3PL 2020-0300F, which is at Watton. And I'll take you in a moment, Keith, if you don't mind, if we could just have the applicants coming in, the various people to just speak. We've got Paul Knight, who's an objector, coming in, connecting to audio. I think it's probably that one. Ada McManus, who's the agent. Oh yeah, I can see that one. Councillor Tina Cadell, and of course Councillor Gilbert is here, and we've got Nick Conn from Verve Health as well. Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I will not be sitting as a committee member on this application. I will exercise my right to address the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's over to the presentation officer. It's over to you, please, Tom.
Thank you, Chairman. So the application before you is for the change of use of a hotel used class C1 to a residential care facility used class C2. The existing use of the property has been established by an application for a community asset, which will be discussed in a bit more detail later in the presentation, and is also set out within the officer report. The specific proposed use of the property is as a specialist private drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre. So on this slide, we can see the application site. The application site is at the Hare and Barrel Hotel, which is situated within the Watton settlement boundary to the western end of the town, but outside of the town centre. And the development in the surrounding area comprises mainly of residential development. So here we have the location plan for the application site, which shows the application site outlined in red. So on the next two slides, we have here the existing site plan, and then on the next slide, the proposed site plan. What we'll see from these two slides is that there are minimal changes proposed to the building itself. However, you will see that there are some changes to the parking provision arrangement on site, and also some external seating areas. And there have also been some other hard landscaping changes proposed, but they will be sort of addressed later on in the presentation. So this is the existing site plan, and now the proposed site plan. So you can see the changes to the seating area and parking provision to the front of the building. So here we have the existing ground floor plan. So the majority of the changes being proposed are internal. There is an increase in the number of rooms in the property via the internal changes from 15 rooms for the hotel and to an increase to 19 rooms for the proposed care facility use. So here we have the proposed ground floor plan, the existing first floor plan, and the proposed first floor plan. So this slide shows the proposed entrance plan, which also includes the hard landscaping changes that were referenced earlier. So we can see that along the bottom of that slide there is a proposal to include a fence and automatic gate to the front of the property. Have a site photo showing the frontage of the site as existing. So the key issues of assessment with this application, as identified in the committee report, are the principle of development, the amenity impact of the proposal, and the impact on highway safety. In terms of the principle of development, the key factor is whether the building and its existing use can be considered as a community facility. The definition of a community facility is included within the report, and in this case, it was an assessment as to whether the building was classed as a public house. During the application, a nomination was made, putting the building forward as an asset of community value. This is a separate process undertaken by the council's legal team, and this process found that the use of the building was that of a hotel rather than a public house. Taking this into account, as well as the information submitted by the applicant and local representatives, it is considered that the main use of the building is as a hotel with an ancillary hospitality use providing food and drink. Therefore, the building and its use is not considered to be a community facility, and therefore its loss is acceptable in planning policy terms. In terms of the amenity impact, as previously stated, the building will not be enlarged in any way, and therefore the amenity impact of the physical building will not be altered either. However, given the nature of the proposed use, residents will be based on site for longer, continuous time periods. As this is the case, it is considered that there will be a significant reduction in traffic and pedestrian movement compared to the hotel and restaurant's existing use, which would generate a lot more comings and goings, particularly during evening hours. So therefore, it's considered that the amenity impact would on balance be reduced by the proposed use. Finally, with the highway safety impact, concerns have been raised by local residents about parking provision on site and the ability of refuse trucks to service the site and the impact that this will have on highway safety in the area. The Highway Authority have considered the application and have raised no objections to the proposal. It's considered that the proposed use and the maximum traffic movements and implications of this would be comparable, if not potentially reduced to the existing use, and therefore would not result in a worsening of highway safety in this location. So on the basis of these comments and points, the proposal is considered to be policy compliant and is accordingly recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We've got Paul Knight, please, who's an objector. I can see you on my screen. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. The application to convert the Hare and Barrel, a much needed public house with letting rooms, into a rehab centre for addiction must be stopped. The whole concept of having an addiction centre in a quiet residential area on a busy road with frequent lorries delivering pigs to be slaughtered, with the noises and the smells that produces, as well as a nearby a live firing and night bombing range used by the military camp, is ludicrous. Patients need a peaceful environment area. This site is not fit for purpose. We lose a meeting venue and a restaurant for once 30+ weekly Rotary Club members, as well as a place for relatives and tourists to stay. The rehab poses a serious risk to health, safety, security and well-being, and the fear of crime for vulnerable elderly neighbours, the children and Watton in general. This contravenes the national framework policy to protect us from crime and the fear of it. The loss of privacy for the surrounding neighbours due to their homes and gardens being overlooked 24 hours a day for up to 3 months at a time by unstable clients, whereas B&B check-ins, etc., check in at 3 and out by 10 the next day. the possible distress to children and parents as they pass and look through a 6-foot metal picket fence, just like a prison, to and from a nearby junior school. The fence will have a negative visual impact. There also will be the increased risk of antisocial behaviour and disturbances, overstretching our already limited police and ambulance service. Situations like these will no doubt require sirens, lights, high-speed vehicles in a residential area at unsociable hours. Steps Together, a rehab place in Nottingham, in 1 year had 11 such ambulance call-outs. There is an increase in traffic disruption due to inadequate parking provisions with no spaces provided for the 19 staff. There will be an increased threat of crime and criminal damage if patients committed by a family member or by courts wish to escape through the neighbouring gardens. The idea that patients with severe mental and health issues could safely be treated by an inexperienced operator is farcical. The previous application has an inadequate care report, but if permission is obtained, the site could be sold to them with anyone specialising in various or any other addictions. There is no disabled toilet. The plans include a WC. Apparently,
thank you, Mr.
room does not exist.
Thank you. That's for 3 minutes. Thank you very much. And we've got Ida McManus and Nick Conn. Who would wish to go first?
I would.
Okay, I'll give you 1.5 minutes and then I'll stop you and we'll move to Nick. Okay, off you go.
Right, okay. The proposed change of use will be operated by Nick Conn, the founder and CEO of Help for Addiction and Verve Health. There's a specialist residential rehabilitation centre for professional people with drug and/or alcohol addiction or suffering from anxiety, and it will be registered and regulated by the Care Quality Commission with programmes ranging from 7 days to 84 days. This is a private facility and not an NHS drop-in centre. Generally, the clients are people with high-pressure jobs such as police officers, judges, doctors, nurses, professional sports people and business people. Nick himself was a police officer who's recovered from drug dependency and understands the importance of addressing the real underlying issues through the provision of a world-class facility. There is the strict admission process, and if clients breach the client agreement, they will be asked to leave the facility. There are no drug or alcohol allowed on the premises. The principle of the change of use is acceptable, and the proposal only incorporates minimal external changes of appearance and existing property. And it will not result in a significant impact on the character and appearance on the area. In fact, the boundary treatment and landscaping will enhance the appearance of the site and surrounding area, in addition to providing biodiversity gain. It's likely that there will be a reduction in the impact on noise with less vehicle movements and pedestrian movements, especially when events are operated.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Can we go to Nick Conn then, please?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Nicholas Conn and I'm the founder and CEO of Verve Health and Help for Addiction. So we're a specialist drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre which will be regulated by the CQC, who monitor us in 5 areas, which are safe, caring, effective, responsive to people's needs and well-led. And in order to ensure this is done to the highest standard, we've employed a highly experienced award-winning CQC registered manager. The clients that will be admitted into our centre will be self-funding. They have high-pressure jobs, including judges, police officers, professionals, sports people, and business people. Over 12 years ago now, I was a police officer who had suffered with drug addiction, and I thoroughly understand the importance that residential rehabs have to play in someone's recovery. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't be here today. Our centre will enable clients to overcome their addictions by offering a medical detox for drug and alcohol, followed by world-class rehabilitation to address the real underlying issues and provide the clients with effective relapse prevention techniques and coping skills. The centre will conduct an over-the-phone pre-admission assessment to ensure client suitability at the clinic. Once this is done, a member of our staff will complete a treatment contract with them to ensure the clients are respectful of each other, staff and neighbours, or they will be asked to leave. We're delighted to announce that we will be retaining the current staff at the clinic, as well as recruiting locally for more specialist staff. We'll be able to reduce the impact for noise due to less traffic and pedestrian traffic from the site. The improved access and landscaping will enhance the character of the area also. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today.
Thank you very much. We're going to Councillor Cadell. I've lost you on my screen somewhere. Oh, I've got you now. Yeah, there you are. 3 minutes, please, Councillor.
Thank you for hearing this today. I strongly object to this application. There are many emotive reasons to save the old Hare and Barrel. And if I were to list the level of feeling within this town as to its change of use, we would be here all day. Firstly, there is nowhere within its planning history documenting it to having had a change of use from a pub to a hotel. But I understand that there is no classification to differentiate between the two. There has been much speculation in the past that this venue has been run to fail. That, I would have to say, would be unprovable. But if you are being told that it is not being supported, then I can wholeheartedly reassure you that it most definitely is. I can assure you from the public's point of view, it is indeed still a pub with rooms, and genuinely nice rooms they are too. Also, I rush to point out very full and used rooms. I can safely say that there is nearly full occupancy on most nights of the week. This, with a strong regular group of bar users, makes for a remarkably busy and much needed venue. I say this with utter conviction, as I am one of the aforementioned. We are a linear town in Watton, stretching from one end of the high street to the other, and there is no other venue at this end of our town. Therefore, the Watton by Verve, as it is now called, is very much needed and would be sorely missed. The rooms are used by many contractors that stay here working away from home. They work as far as the wind farms and various other big construction sites. We have a shortage of rooms in Watton, and I feel that if we lose this venue, we will lose a lot of much needed income from the visitors in what can only be described as difficult and trying times for the businesses within our town. Considering we are going through a global pandemic and one of the industries that has been consistently working throughout, keeping the economy ticking over, is the building trade and key workers, this venue with their rooms has been a godsend and has been used as soon as it reopened post-lockdown. We must also not forget that there is a much talked about regeneration of Watton post-COVID, and an addiction clinic would not sit well within the plans that we hope to bring to fruition for the town. So it is my plea to you, the committee, to refuse the planning application for change of use and save our venue, to keep a much needed and used facility that Watton sadly lacks and needs. Thank you for hearing this.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Gilbert, please. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. The Hare and Barrel opened on the 4th of July 1977 as Watton's first free house pub and has continued to operate as such, an A4 public house under subsequent owners, being very popular with local people. When I asked our licensing department to confirm the category of the Hare and Barrel, I was very surprised to be told that Breckland does not hold a register of the use class of any licensed premises in the district. So it is up to the owner to decide what the category is. How is that right? The people of Watton know it is a pub and use it as such. It should therefore be referred to as a Class A4 public house, and therefore have the protection of a community facility as listed in policy COM 04 of our local plan. I would like to know, and I'm sure the committee would too, who decided on this classification and was a site visit made to establish the facts. It should not be left to our owners to decide which category suits them. The Hare and Barrel is the only pub that end of town and one of only two serving food in this town. The loss of this pub will be a great detriment to Watton and the surrounding area. I should like to ask the applicants why they have submitted incorrect plans. What you have been shown as the existing ground floor plan is not what is actually there. I don't know if you could bring that up for me, please. It shows a large restaurant that no longer exists. It was changed into a fitness room and meeting room, or should I say office, as part of the refurbishment, as part of the plan for the pub to fail. What faith can you have in this proposal if the applicants submit incorrect plans? I would now like to move to the question of whether this is a suitable site for residential care facility for the treatment of people suffering from substance misuse. The Hare and Barrel is on a very busy road with large lorries delivering pigs, usually squealing, to the nearby abattoir in the area, and the noise of gunfire from the nearby army training area. There is virtually no communal outside area for the use of residents. If I were in the awful situation of needing such treatment, I certainly wouldn't want it here. Such a treatment should be in tranquil settings with sufficient outdoor space. When the applicants withdrew their last application, they said it was because they had secured a much better location for their clinic, showing that they realised that this is not a good location for such a facility. In conclusion, please save this pub, a much needed community facility, which should be recognised as such under policy COM 04 of our local plan, and refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Thank you. It's now open to questions from members. Any members wishing to ask questions? Councillor Clark then, please, and then Wilkinson and Kybird.
Thank you, Chairman. My question's addressed to Tom as the officer, and also possibly Rebecca and possibly Mr. Horn. I'm in favour of both pubs and rehabilitation. I've been into the Hare and Barrel as a pub, but I also declare interest that I used to work in the NHS 30 years and also for the Care Quality Commission, but don't hold a brief for them. My question is, what I'd like assurance on is either through licensing, which Councillor Gilbert's mentioned, or in planning, there must be a record. I'm not happy about voting if there is some doubt about the actual classification that this place occupies. I appreciate there may be a grey line between a hotel that has a bar in, as quite a lot of them do, as opposed to a pub that has accommodation that's ancillary. So I haven't seen anything other than the officer's report on that. So I would like a sort of a view on that before I decide how I'm going to take a position on this. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who can answer this for me, but there seems a lot of contradiction with statements we've heard today. One saying it's used constantly, then another says the restaurant's been reduced and taken away and made into an office. So is it used as a restaurant, or it just as used as a hotel? And are the owners local, and do they actually run the establishment?
Rebecca, please.
I think we're trying to debate the use class here. So there's a couple of points that members need to take into consideration. So Councillor Kiddle mentioned changes of use. So what is really important to note, councillors, is your planning use class system does not match exactly your licensing use class. So the two aren't directly transferable. We have a very set use class system that members may or may not be aware has recently, from the 1st of September, been updated. However, before the 1st of September, any A4 use could transfer down the use class order in a way that we would describe it. So any A4 public house could move to an A3 restaurant without needing planning permission. And this is why it makes it impossible for us as a planning team to keep a register of all properties and their use classes, because there are lots of examples of permitted changes where they either need to notify us of those changes or need a formal application for planning permission. And the transfer of pubs to restaurants is one of those said changes. Also, as members may or may not be aware, that there is a lawful use, so a building that's been used for a period of 10 years or more can lawfully change to a different use class without needing planning permission. Now, as Tom's already set out, there was an application to list this as an asset of community value. Your legal team has looked in significant detail at the current use of the building, how it operates, whether it has lawfully changed to a hotel, etc. And they have determined that the primary use and the lawful use of this site is as a hotel and not as a public house. That's not to say that you couldn't have gone there for a drink and stopped for a drink. You could, but that's ancillary to its main use. Us as officers have also reviewed that, and we consider the use of the building to be a hotel, and we've had sufficient information to demonstrate that. Therefore, on that basis, we then move to policy COM 04, and this is set out in your officer report, which does not include hotels. We've assessed it on that basis. Like I say, it would be impossible for us to keep a register of all building uses. That's not our requirement. It's not up to the applicant to decide what their use class is. It's up for them to suitably demonstrate what the use class of that building is. And both us and your legal department have assessed that, and we do agree in this instance that the lawful use of that building is a hotel. Therefore, it takes it outside the remit of policy COM 04. Members have in front of you the recommendation to allow this change of use.
Oh, sorry, thanks for that, Rebecca. Yeah, you were saying that was fairly recent, that change within the use class. By the way, I have got you, Marion, so don't worry. But you equally said it's okay for them to just come down through the use class, which I'm slightly concerned with that, because I wasn't aware that that could happen, because irrespective of this application, and I don't want to sort of forego too much of the meeting for this, but there's often we can have a situation where a pub can become a restaurant, can become a cafe, can go down and down and down until it sits at a fairly low level, and the next thing we know is it's, instead of losing a pub, we're losing a little drop-in cafe for a private house usage. I'm glad you put your hand up because you know where I'm going.
Yeah, you need to be really careful, members, in that as from the 1st of September, the regulations have been updated and they have changed the permitted changes of use class. They've also added in more permitted changes to use class. This is under judicial review as we speak, so there may well be further changes. So that was from the 1st of September, so I don't want to harp on too much about what might or might not happen going forward. But in the traditional A use classes, you could move down the use classes. In this instance, a hotel is not an A use class, so we're not saying that that was a permitted change. What I was trying to express, poorly, admittedly, is that it's impossible for us to keep a catalogue of the use of every building within the district. One, because of the scale and number, but two, because not always do you need a planning application to change a use. And also, even if you've got a planning application for a change of use to a building, if that change of use isn't implemented, and we wouldn't know whether it was or wasn't implemented, then you haven't got a lawful permitted use. So it's impossible to keep a register of every use class of every building within the district. That said, the information that's been submitted by the applicant demonstrating that the primary use of this building is a hotel has been assessed by your officers and your legal team, and it is deemed that the adopted use of that building, the lawful use, apologies, of that building is a hotel.
Okay, can we have Mike Horn, please, solicitor?
Can I, thank you very much, Nigel. Can I just say, adding to what Rebecca has just said, that whilst it is indeed the case that both your planning and your legal officers have determined, as Rebecca has just stated, that is merely what we, looking at all the evidence and the facts, have decided is the right answer. That is not a formal determination. This is all a question of and agree, and it is for you members what the lawful starting point is. We are only advising you that that is what we believe it to be.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Horn. I'm just going to tell you where we're going with this, because there's people thinking they're not going to be heard. I've got Councillor Kybird, followed by Councillor Bowes, and Councillor Chapman-Allen, and then Councillor Attewell. I will call you out, but just to let you know, I have got you listed down. So, Councillor Kybird.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, my first question was to be, can we rely on the legal advice of the current class use? It's since been suggested that that is advice and not a determination, so that in my mind remains a grey area. Second question is, can the planning permission be conditional or on CQC approval of the facility? And my third point, which is just to note that Wotton Town Council could find no valid planning reasons to object. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowes, please.
Chairman, just to say that I accept the legal team's advice on this as it's been explained, actually. And my main concern is that should committee approve the application, that we ensure that the boundary fencing, or be minded to approve the application, that we would ensure that the boundary fencing would be natural as far as possible from an environmental and a street scene perspective, particularly along the front of the property where it abuts the highway. I really, I hope that it sort of intimates in the report that we wouldn't condition this, but I would like to hope that we could, because I would not like to see a hard fence put in that position. So I would hope that that is something that could be looked at and considered. And also, just my only other reservation is that I would have liked to see a slightly larger garden amenity area for residents. And just to also say that as a ward member, more people have expressed support for a facility such as this in Wotton to me personally than have not. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman-Allen.
Thank you, Chairman. Becky, could you just give me some clarification, because I'm picking up different things on the internet. The EDP mentioned Verve Hotels, and I understand it was known as Wotton by Verve. Was it bought and done up by Verve Hotels?
Can we pass that to the agent or owner? Chairman, apologies.
Yes, please. Ida, would you like to answer that, or the owner, Verve Health applicant, which is Nick?
Yes, I can confirm, yes, it was done up by Verve Hotels.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I was just going to comment on the fact that if my information on that was correct, so they can actually sell to whom they want, and refusing this application is not going to make this hostelry open again, because I understand it's been closed for quite a considerable time. Thank you, Chairman.
I don't think it is closed from what I heard from actually both councillors. Councillor Gilbert, could you just answer, is it still closed? You're probably best rather than me ask the applicant.
It is open as far as I know. It reopened after refurbishment and I was shown round, so I know that the restaurant that was there no longer exists. And as I understand, it has been very popular since we came out of lockdown.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Chairman.
you.
That's why I asked for clarification, because on the internet, it's not very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Rod Councillor Attwell, but Mike Horn's got his hand up first. So Mike, over.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say who the present owners can sell to is not a relevant planning consideration in respect of this proposed application.
Am I not led to believe it's a coincidence that Verve and Verve are the same people? Is that not strictly?
They may be, but you.
I mean, it's irrelevant to the application, but
you are being asked to look at this application for this proposed use, and to make a decision on whether you agree with the officer recommendation, and in particular, whether you agree with your lawyers and your planner's starting point.
That's fine. Councillor Attwell, please. Sorry for.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just ask the officers what account has been taken on the effect on this proposal on the town centre, bearing in mind that we're supposed to be supporting our town centres? Has any consideration been given to the effect that if we lose this public house, hotel, whichever you want to look at it, and all the accommodation that's there? Obviously, I think Councillor Cadell said that there's lots of workmen that stay there, use these premises. I guess they use the town centre as well. Has there been an assessment? Should there be an assessment on the impact on the town centre on that? And also, if I could just ask, the gentleman who spoke in objection said that the place is used as a meeting place. Is that just for one committee, or is that for general community use? I just wonder if you could confirm that for me. I think he said the round table meet there. Is there other groups that meet this? Is that a community function that this place offers in Watton? Could you just answer that? I may have a supplemental.
Yeah, that was me that said it. It's Paul Knight here. Yes, when the property went into basically restoration and conversion, and the weekly meeting of the Rotary Club, which had 30+ people on Thursday nights, then moved its venue to Broome Hall. However, there are a lot of people who do use it for regular meetings, family-wise and bits and pieces. But obviously, under the COVID conditions, virtually everything like that has stopped.
Okay, thank you. And could I just come back onto the comments that Mike Horn said about the legal definition? Am I to assume then, Mike, that what you're actually saying is that where officers have said that this is Class C1 as opposed to Class A4 for a pub, that is their subjective opinion and not a legal definition?
I am suggesting to you that it's a question of fact and degree what the starting point here is, and that is the conclusion that your planning and legal team have come to, but that is ultimately for you members to determine, looking at all of the application papers and from everything that you know, and it is certainly open to you to disagree with your officers, as it is always open to you. But that's our starting point.
Okay, could I just follow up, Chairman? So on the basis then that we could take a subjective view on that, I don't think I've seen any legal paper, unless I've missed something in the paperwork and the documents provided to us, that there's actually a paper in there from the legal team with regard to the definition. I don't think I've seen that myself. have I missed something there? Perhaps Rebecca can confirm whether that was provided to members.
Well, the asset of community value application is a separate process to the planning process that Tom's already set out. That asset application has been made and declined on the grounds that it's not a community facility, because the established use is a hotel, not a public house, on a matter of fact and degree, as assessed by your legal team and indeed supported by your planning officers in their assessment. You know, you can clearly see that the number of rooms and the proportion of the unit that is given over to the hotel use, and the small proportion that is given over to a visiting drinking established, and therefore it's lawful use class, we consider.
Hello?
It's lawful use class, we consider. Sorry, I'm getting phone calls through the computer. Is
That's
to
the
be
legal department on the phone.
No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not, Roger. If I'm not allowed to screen them straight through. But my point is that the asset of community value is a separate process. It's documented on our website, and it's been refused as an asset of community value on the grounds that it's a hotel. Apologies, that was a long summary.
Okay, Chairman, if I may. So I think this question was asked earlier on. I don't think we had a very satisfactory answer. So according to, and I'll bow to his knowledge, Keith Gilbert said that it was opened as a pub in 1977. So somewhere between 1977, when it was opened as a pub, it was a pub, it has changed, and Breckland Council have now determined recently, apparently, that it's a hotel. So when previous planning applications were put in to construct the additional rooms there, was that considered to be a change of use from A4 to C1 at that point? Or have we just let that one slide on the basis that it's always been a pub and they would just add an extra rooms? I think this legal definition is quite important here. So that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
I think I was quite clear earlier that you don't necessarily need a planning application to lawfully change the use of a building. It's how that building has been used for a period of 10 years or more. And your officers, on a matter of fact, consider that the building has been lawfully used, is being lawfully used as a hotel at this time. And therefore that's its lawful use class, which is supported by their application for an asset of community value being turned down.
Okay.
Can I just ask, sorry, Councillor Atwell, can I just ask though, I mean, obviously it's licensed premises, so you can get a drink there as in a pub. And I lived in Watton at the same time as Keith when it did open, and yes, it was only a pub. I can't remember the guy's name at the moment. It's Roger, someone or other who done it, and I can never remember it becoming a hotel, but it did become a hotel. Obviously, they used some of the rooms and then converted some buildings outside and made it into a hotel over the time. But it is still licensed at somewhere along the line as a pub and a hotel use as well, I gather.
But don't get confused, members, that your licensing isn't your material planning use of the building. So please don't get confused.
I understand.
Because
I do understand that
comparable, and
I understand that, but I'm trying to satisfy the argument that some of the members are putting forward, that it's an asset within the town under its guise as a pub, which has been watered down. The beer hasn't, but the principle of watered down to be a hotel, of which you can possibly do without or not. I'm just trying to protect some of the members that have a part of an argument into that. But
okay, Chairman, if I may, then
please do.
If I may, without being too rude. Us as officers, looking at the facts of the case, are saying that this isn't an A4 use. Okay, so just to be really clear, It is not an A4 use in our view. However, it is, as Mike's already set out, completely acceptable for members to take an alternative view and view it as an A4 use as a public house. And then it would fall in the remit of policy COMO 4, which relates to community facilities, of which public houses can be classed as a community facility. And your policy in the local plan says proposals including a change of use will not be permitted where it can be demonstrated there's no local need for the facility or its continuing function is not viable, or an equivalent facility is provided to serve the same community in an accessible location. So if your members, you would like to assess it as a public house, there are a number of public houses within Watton which would be an equivalent facility, and therefore the loss of this, if members would like to view it as a public house under policy COMO 4, would mean that it would be acceptable in policy terms as well for the loss of a community facility.
Not nearby public houses.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Mr. Knights. Okay, thanks, Rebecca. Do I have any further questions? Councillor, will you finish or did you have another one? Because I did cut you off.
Yeah, no, I just want to really get to the nub of this. For me, I'm concerned this is the only pub on that side of the town. As Councillor Gilbert has said, I think it's only one of two pubs that serve food in the town, and I'm not convinced that there's been consideration taken of the effect on the impact on the town centre, in particular, by losing this facility. Now, has that been considered in terms of policy on the impact on the town and losing that?
The site located outside the town centre boundary. So your policies about the vitality and the viability are centred around your town centres as highlighted. You know, when you're writing a policy about town centre, you're required to highlight the area to which that policy relates in the same way you would a settlement boundary. And this lies outside the town centre boundary. So your impact on the town centre would not be a material planning consideration in this instance, because your policy is about the vitality and the viability. So it's protecting that use, those types of uses within your town centre locations.
Thank you for that, Rebecca. I've got Councillor Bowes and then Councillor Chapman-Allen, please.
Thank you. Just to point out, everyone keeps saying it's the only hotel at that end of the town, but whilst not in Watton, we've got the Broom Hall Hotel and Restaurant, which is in just over the boundary between Watton and Sayham. So let's not get too parochial. There is another facility in that area, not far away.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman-Allen, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, following on from what Councillor Bowles said, it is very much on the periphery of Watton. It's not in Watton town centre. And given these strange times that we're living in, I think according to the report, it's not going to be a clinic that is funded by national health patients. It's going to be private patients, self-funders that are going to be using it. And I think it's a very, very much needed thing in these, as I said, in these strange times. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Attawell coming back for a final time, please.
Yeah, it's just to say I take on board what Councillor Bowes has said, but the facility she's talking outside of Watton is not within walking distance of the town centre. At least the Hare and Barrel, you can walk to the town centre from there. So I would say that will have an impact on the town centre. Thank you.
Thanks for that. People in Watton are well known for how far they'll walk for a pint of beer, I can tell you. Okay, I think we've had a good discussion within this. I can see no one else desperately waving their hands. So I'm just going to ask you all to confirm that you've heard the application presentation in full, and I'm able to take a vote. If I could have a show of hands just to say that. Yes, that's everyone. Thank you. Okay, so with regards to this application in Watton 3PL 2020-0300, your officer's recommendation is one of approval. Julie, could you take the roll for approval, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Attewell,
Against.
Councillor Bowes,
For.
Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
Approve.
Sorry.
For.
Councillor Clark,
Abstaining.
Councillor Crane,
For.
Councillor Dale,
For.
Councillor Digan,
For.
Councillor Martin,
For.
Councillor Kybird,
For.
and Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Thank you, Chair. That's 8 votes to approve the application. Sorry,
Thank you. And 1 refusal and 1 abstention.
one refusal and 1 abstention. That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, this item is approved. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, members of the public who are here. So we will let you leave, and then we can continue with the meeting. Well, I say let you leave, we'll probably get you thrown out. That's probably one way or the other. Thank you for your time. And we get down. Yeah, we're okay. Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, members. So we move on to item 10, which is applications determined by the Executive Director of Place. They're there for your information. And also item 11, the appeals summary, which is there for your information, although I did raise one the other day that I wasn't happy about, but I'm not going to dwell on that one because I've already done that with Rebecca. So we'll let that one go, which I didn't agree with the inspector's decision on that one anyway. So with that, members, I'm going to call this meeting to a close, and I thank you for your time. Unless anyone wishes to raise anything, they don't. So goodbye. Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Chapman-Allen.
I was waving goodbye, Chairman.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were waiting. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.